to the Kanata All Candidates debate. We made sure to invite all the candidates running in Kanata, and we're so happy that all of them are here with us. Throughout the night, we'll hear about more about the party's platforms and how they'll impact local issues here in Kanata. My name is Danielle McGee. I'll be your moderator this evening, and I'm a member of the Kanata Lakes Community Association, and tonight's event is a collaboration with the community associations across our riding. And a special thank you to Neil from the Beaverbrook Community Association for organizing so many of the details today, and to everyone who submitted the questions. Your input has helped shape tonight's discussion. As we begin, it's worth recognizing the energy that this election has. Elections Canada said today that there was a record-breaking 7.3 million votes cast during the 4 advanced days of voting. And this is up from approximately 5 million in 2021. And this level of engagement really underscores the importance of this moment and our collective responsibility to shape the future. For the format tonight, the discussion will be guided by several important themes that we shared with all the candidates in advance. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves and offer opening remarks. We'll move into questions, giving each candidate 2 minutes to respond, and we'll rotate the order in which the candidates answer each question. Following the questions, the candidates will have 3 minutes for closing remarks. We committed to wrap up by 8:30, so we'll do that to respect time, and we'll get through as many questions as we can. So in the order in which they'll provide their opening remarks, please join me in welcoming the candidates running to represent the riding of Kanata in the upcoming federal election. We have with us tonight Jenna Suds, the Liberal Party of Canada. We have Greg Kung from the Conservative Party of Canada. We have Melissa Simon from the NDP. And we have Jennifer Purdy with the Green Party of Canada. And we have Moin Siddiqui from the Centrist Party of Canada. Thank you all for being here and for stepping forward to serve. With just 1 week to go in the election, we look forward to hearing your ideas. And with that, we'll start with opening remarks from Jenna.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Danielle, and thank you to yourself and Neil and all of the community associations who have worked hard to give us this opportunity tonight. These debates are important, and I want to thank you for your leadership in bringing them together. I truly believe that this is one of the most important elections of our lifetime. President Trump is a threat to our economy and to our sovereignty. There's never been a moment like this, frankly, and we need more than slogans and conservatives who talk our country down. We need strong leaders that unite us and build us up. I'm Jenna Suds, and I'm the right person to do just that for our community here in Kanata, Stittsville, Bells Corners, and Carp. And for Canada, I believe that leader, that person is our Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Together, our Liberal government will unite Canadians to give ourselves more than any country could ever take away from us. We will secure our sovereignty in an increasingly dangerous and divided world. We will protect the Canadian way of life, because Canada will never be America. And we will build the strongest economy in the G7. Together, with the trust and help of all Canadians, we will build Canada strong. I'm an economist, I'm a mom to 3 teenage daughters, and I'm someone who cares deeply about our community and doing right by every single person in it. I love our community. It's why I've lived here for almost 25 years. It's where I chose to start my life with my husband now of 21 years and raise our 3 daughters. On this virtual stage here tonight, I am the only candidate that can meet this moment. I will fight for you, for your jobs, for your family, for your children's future, as your neighbor, as your friend, and as your member of Parliament. I ask for your support to continue doing this amazing work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenna. Next up, we have Greg Kung with the Conservative Party. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Danielle. First and foremost, everyone, thank you for the invitation to be here this evening. Hello to those watching, and thank you to the many community associations that have made this event possible. It's a pleasure to be here. If we haven't met yet, I'm Greg Kung, and I'm running to be your Conservative Member of Parliament. I'm running because Kanata cannot afford another 4 years of Liberal government and Liberal representation. We need change, and I am that change. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Kanata is better off now than it was 10 years ago? Successive Liberal members of Parliament in this riding have contributed to what has become known as the lost Liberal decade. We are no further ahead, and many are further behind. It does not need to be this way. Let me give you a clear example. The Liberals supported the carbon tax until it was no longer politically convenient for them to do so. Many of you probably asked our Member of Parliament to do something about that. She did nothing for years. Over the past decade, everything has become more expensive. Rent and mortgage payments have doubled, food costs have skyrocketed, and Canadians are paying 80% more income tax under the Liberals. I know many people are also worried about what is happening south of the border. We are negotiating from a position of weakness. We've wasted the opportunity to build, find new markets, and to be energy independent under the Liberals. We have seen their best efforts, and after 10 years, Canada is more dependent on the US than ever. This isn't something to be proud of, which is why I believe Kanata, and quite frankly, Canada, needs a change. I'm asking for your vote this evening to help bring in that change. I don't believe in offering criticism without solutions, and so what will I do as your Member of Parliament? For starters, I'm connected to these issues better than others in this meeting. As a paramedic and previously as an adjudicator with the parole board, I see what failed government policy looks like in real time. I was an economic advisor to the late Jim Flaherty. I know what strong fiscal leadership looks like and how balancing a budget is important, just like it is for you at home. I'll bring more energy and better representation to Kanata. I can sense the despair that many are feeling. I want to change that. I'm proudly supporting policies I think will make a real difference. A 15% income tax cut to save the average working family $1,800 a year. Protecting OAS, GIS, and CPP by keeping the retirement age at 65 and allowing seniors to earn up to $34,000 tax-free. We'll repeal C-69 and speed up permitting for LNG plants, pipelines, and eliminate the capital gains tax altogether for Canadian reinvestment, making us more resilient in the face of threats from the US. The contrast in the choices you have during this election have never been clearer. It is either more of the same and potentially another lost Liberal decade, or it is change and hope for the better. I'll be a strong advocate for Kanata and its people, bringing your voices to Parliament Hill, as opposed to Parliament Hill bringing their voice to you. On April 28th, I humbly ask for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Greg. Next up, we have Melissa Simon with the NDP. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Melissa Simon. I am a mother to 4 older teens and young adults and have lived in the Kanata area for more than 20 years. I'm a social worker. I have a social work degree from Carleton University, and I have experience working mainly in the community justice system, though also in community health and EAP crisis support. I understand what evidence-based strategies there are for crime prevention. One of the main issues that we're facing today is concern about perceived rising violence in our community, property crimes. And I think that we have some real solutions that need to be looked at that are a little bit more than more jail and less bail. I'm running for this election because I not only support, but commit to working for the well-being of all Canadians. I think that Canada should be a place where your job is enough to pay for your home and your food and your bills, where everyone can see a doctor in a timely fashion, where prescription medication isn't out of reach, and in a place, I believe in Canada as a place where hate is not tolerated. I support tax cuts, which is something people tend to be surprised to hear from an NDP candidate. But no, the NDP has always supported tax cuts. Tax cuts for low-income and middle-income Canadians, and to replace the revenue that we lose from offering tax cuts to everyday Canadians, we propose that the revenue be taken instead from multimillionaire, billionaire corporations and individuals who can afford a small bump in taxation. Some of the things that I will work for as your MP include eliminating the GST from essentials, fighting for Canadian jobs with a Buy Canadian, Build Canadian economic plan, making it more affordable to buy zero emissions vehicles, creating new jobs by investing in clean energy. Ultimately, I'd like to see all of us take care of one another as Canadians, not only because it's part of our cultural DNA, but because it makes economic sense. A society where people's needs are met, where people are free from discrimination and poverty, where people can live healthy and productive lives in a society with reduced crime, means a brighter future for all Canadians. And that's what I will work for. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And next up, we have Jennifer Purdy with the Green Party of Canada. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much, and thank you for hosting this tonight. Hello et bonjour à tous, and happy Earth Day, everyone. I'm a family doctor, I'm a veteran, and I'm a mother of triplet toddlers. I grew up in Canada. I have a degree from the Royal Military College of Canada in Kingston, and my medical degree is from the University of Ottawa. After living across the country during my time in the military, I settled in Dunrobin in 2015, and I moved to Beaverbrook in 2023. I represent the Green Party and an evidence-based approach to your interests. People I talk with are concerned about the affordability crisis, sovereignty crisis, climate crisis, healthcare, housing, and the fact that the Liberal government has been not only funding, but also sending weapons and aircraft parts to support the Palestinian genocide. We pride ourselves in our peacekeeping roots, and yet our government is supporting genocide and flouting international law. Canada must follow international law. One, because that is the ethical and moral thing to do. And two, because otherwise, if we need it one day, international law might no longer exist to protect us. And this is important given what's happening with the United States and the belligerence from President Trump. Here at home, our government can make life more affordable for everyone. We can improve our public health care system. We can reverse decades of neglect on housing. We can protect our sovereignty and strengthen our economy in spite of Trump's attacks, while at the same time addressing climate change. We can protect ourselves financially from Trump's attack on our country and end up stronger together. But we must make sure we don't leave anyone behind. And the fact is, many are already being left behind, and neither the Liberals nor the Conservatives have a plan to keep us all afloat. As a Green and as a doctor who sees the social costs of inequity, I say we need affordability and not austerity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And our final candidate, Moin Siddiqui from the Centrist Party of Canada. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. And thank you very much, Neil, for inviting us, for having me here today. It's truly an honor to introduce myself as a federal candidate for the Centrist Party of Canada. My name is Moinuddin Siddiqui, though most people know me simply as Moin. I use 4 letters of my first name. I've been proud president of Canada for nearly 2 decades, so almost 18 years in Canada, and I'm grateful to call this vibrant community my home. Over the years, I have deeply engaged in community service and have had a privilege of serving in leadership role with several local organizations. The Centrist Party is the party for Canada and for Canadian. Our leader, Dr. A.Q. Rana, is a neurologist specializing in Parkinson's disease. He is not only passionate about his medical profession, but also deeply committed to public service and political engagement. Our platform is rooted in defending Canada's sovereignty and standing up against external influences that may harm our national interest. And we stand with those who prioritize the well-being and prosperity of Canada and all Canadians. We propose cutting the first income tax bracket by 50%, While this may initially lead to a revenue loss of around 20 million, it can be offset by reducing government overspending and streamlining the public sector. This includes downsizing government operation by eliminating redundant directors and deputy directors position in the government. We are also committed to addressing critical issues in health and housing. To strengthen our economy, we must focus on strengthening the agriculture sector. Despite having the potential, we currently import fruits and vegetables, a gap we can close by investing in and modernizing the agriculture industry. The other part of our platform, we want to create more manufacturing jobs, develop our oil and gas industry with responsible climate change, control government expending, cut foreign aid, support indigenous community. We can use them for a big community for the business. We give them some subsidies, some loans, crack down on crime, prioritize skill-based immigration. Immigration is the need of Canada. We need at least 1% of the population, but we need skill-based instead of bringing war-torn zone, because those people are not productive. They're a burden on the society. So we are looking for a skill-based immigration. We also protect legal gun owners and workers' right. It's not left, it's not right, it's forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moin. Well, we'll delve right into our first topic and our first couple questions. Canadian elections don't often focus on foreign affairs, but this time feels very different. Global economic uncertainty and shifting dynamics have put the US and foreign policy front and center. We begin the first question with a broad global outlook. Canada continues to face complex global relations and economic pressures. At the same time, there's been criticism that continues around our ability to meet NATO defense spending targets. The question to the candidates, since it's sort of a two-part question, is which countries do you see as potential threats or key allies to Canada? And how does your party's platform plan to address these issues? And would your party propose to increase defense spending? And if so, how would you do that without compromising critical domestic programs? And we'll go to the first candidate, Greg Kung, to answer that question first, followed by Melissa.
Thanks for the question, Danielle. So two parts to this question. I'll start with our defense. Certainly, I think the Conservative Party, more than others, has heard directly from veterans and active personnel that they have been failed by this Liberal government in the last 10 years. We have more to do when we have active personnel living in their cars, when active personnel are homeless or buying their own backpacks and helmets. Our Conservative Party is committed to making sure that the men and women who put on the uniform feel that they have a government that has their back when they go into battlefield, when they go into peacekeeping missions. Part of this global threat is that we have to protect our sovereignty and protect our borders, one of them being our Arctic and northern border. I think it is a very clear statement by Pierre Poilievre to say that we will build a permanent base up north as a signal that we mean business and that a Conservative government is going to invest the personnel, the equipment, the time to make sure that our northern border is secure. Obviously, for anyone that wants to look more, we have a fully costed platform that was released today outlining how we will stay committed to our active men and women that are serving this great country. In terms of just a global outlook, we're facing again a lost Liberal decade. We are in a position of weakness when we are going up against our allies, whether it be the US or other nations. We've had many countries come to Canada asking for our resources, and it is this same Liberal government that has said no, that has repeatedly said that there is no business case for us to get our resources to market. One way that we can be a powerful, prosperous country is by recognizing the value that we hold as a country, the resources that we sit on. A conservative government is going to unlock our resource development and not just talk platitudes to it. We'll roll up our sleeves and make sure that that we get this done and get our LNG, get our oil, our critical minerals to new markets and to new trading partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Next for that question, Melissa Simon. And if you need the question repeated at all, please just ask.
I think I've got it. Thank you. Yes, we haven't reached our NATO defense target of 2%. Can confirm the New Democratic Party does support meeting that target by 2030. As far as which countries are threats and allies, I think it's pretty clear that we are under attack. There's an economic war on Canada by the United States. And what that means is we need to make sure that we're prepared to sustain our economy, regardless of what the United States chooses to do. And that does mean looking toward other partners around the world for economic development. Of course, it's also important for us to build resources and sustainability within our own economy. We do have wonderful access to natural resources, and the infrastructure that we need, such as homes, highways, healthcare, these things can be built by Canadians with a lot of Canadian resources. No, we can't be isolationist. We exist in a global economy, and we need to pay attention to that. At the same time, we do need to look inward for the resources that we need to take care of ourselves. Now, if we're talking about taking care of ourselves, that also means taking care of our social infrastructure so that we are less dependent on others for our basic needs. If we as Canadians use the resources that we already have and redistribute those, then Canadians have less of a threat from the outside because we're taking care of ourselves. And I think that I'll have a chance to talk to some of those issues later tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to Jennifer Purdy next.
Okay, thank you for the question. So with regards to which countries are threats versus allies, the United States clearly is a threat. And just for the record, the Green Party came out with a document called Protecting Canada. It can be found at the greenparty.ca website. We came out with this document when Minister of National Defense Bill Blair was still saying that he thought Trump was just negotiating when he was talking about making Canada the 51st state. So we need serious people in these jobs in a time of crisis like this. So the United States is definitely a threat, and anybody who thinks it might only last for 4 years, we need to plan for the worst case scenarios that this extends beyond 4 years, number one. China and Russia clearly are also threats, and then we need to be keeping eyes on them as well. In terms of potential allies, given what's happening to the United States, the Green Party is looking at the European Union. We need to look elsewhere, and the European Union would be one possibility in terms of developing a closer relationship with them. Green Party will increase spending, and of course, like many other parties, the Conservatives and the Liberals try to tackle the age-old procurement issue. With national defense, for anybody who does not know, money gets allocated in national defense and then they cannot spend it because of procurement issues. In terms of, let's see, and so with regards to national defense, Protecting Canada is a document. We're in agreement that the F-35 should probably be canceled because the F-35, there is a concern amongst other nations that have purchased the F-35 for the United States, that should the United States not want the F-35 to fly, it could be sabotaged, from a distance by the U.S. So we should be looking at different aircraft and different equipment. Number one. Number two, we should be increasing funding, and because we have a threat to our sovereignty, and we not only is it a threat to our borders, but we are also resource rich. And climate crisis is a threat multiplier in terms of national security. So for all these reasons, national defense, yes, the Green Party is saying we need to have a combat capable military. And we're also going to add, this is an excellent idea that we're hoping everyone will pick up on, is a civil defense force, because right now the military ends up being sent to fight fires and fight floods. And yet we do not have, I'm a veteran of 23 years, so apologies, I'm not we now, but the military does not have the human resource capability to be fighting fires and floods. And last year there was 5 or 6,000 fires across the country, right? So a civil defense force that would fall under the federal government would provide excellent, well-paying jobs. People would be well trained. In BC, at least 2 people were killed fighting fires last year. So having a federally like a federal department for a civil defense force that would that would be trained to fight the so-called natural emergencies that are increasing in number because of climate change. That is a piece that we think it would be invaluable to Canada and would take the strain off the military, so that the military could truly be the last resort for any natural disasters, quote unquote, wherein the civil defense force would not be capable of delivering. So we have a few ideas up our slate, and more can be found at greenparty.ca, looking at both the platform and the Protecting Canada document. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next speaker, Moyne, and I'll just remind everybody we try to stick to 2 minutes per answer, and we'll try to prompt you guys as best we can. Go ahead, Moyne.
Yeah, thank you very much, Daniel. Basically, I mean, everybody has the same opinion that the threat we have right now is our neighbor country, US. But I think this is also, I'm thinking on a positive way that this opens another ways to go and to create our economy. I mean, we have so much resources, we have natural resources, we have minerals, so we can look out of the box and then find a new market. Like, the East, I mean, we import 50% of oil from Nigeria, Saudi, Iran. If we can have a pipeline, so we can use our Alberta, we can invest in our Alberta oil industry, and then we can save billions of dollars. And also there are other sectors we can work on it. Like we don't have any Canadian car so far. We make auto parts. We export auto parts. We don't have any Canadian car right now. So like I'm looking at the positive way that in this situation, if we can work on our economy and then find ways to out of this aggression of Donald Trump, and then we can find a better way to build the Canada stronger, and then work with the different parties to make this country united. And expanding in the force or in the army. I mean, it's every country, and there's a need of every country. So we have been like the Centrist Party is also in the favor of spending money into the forces because we have a threat. Not only we are so, I mean, any kind of we get ready for any kind of aggression from any part of the world, not only for the US. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And over to you, Jenna, for the final answer on this one.
Thank you very much. I think, as has been said earlier, this election is truly coming at a time of crisis. With President Trump threatening our economy and our sovereignty, now more than ever, we need to secure Canada. And we secure Canada by supporting our businesses and industry here at home in Canada and help them to diversify to new markets. So what does that mean? That means overhauling our defense procurement methods to better meet our needs as a country and the urgency that this moment is calling us to do so. It means helping Canadian defense businesses grow here at home and diversify their markets abroad. It means giving a pay raise and increasing the number of Canadian Armed Forces members that we have. It means giving better support to our CAF members, whether that's through investments in housing, in healthcare, in childcare, so that they are well supported for the work that we call on them to do. It means modernizing recruitment processes. It means securing Canada's Arctic and better protecting our coastlines. It's expanding our fleet of both aerial and underwater drones so that we have a more consistent or persistent presence both in the air and the sea. It's supporting our Canadian Army with significant new and necessary investments that meet the moment that we are in. It also means investing in our Coast Guard. And lastly, it means ensuring that our veterans have access to the healthcare and the supports that they need, modernizing the benefit system, streamlining it so it's easier for them to access, and supporting them in life post-service in helping them find jobs. This is our plan as a Liberal government to move forward to meet the moment and ensure that we are investing for today that is necessary for the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for that. And we'll continue the theme of the economy and take it to a more local approach. When we think about the economy right now, and we think about government procurement, local economic resilience, many Canadian companies, including some here in Canada, have expressed concerns with federal contracts going to large US or multinational corporations, despite commitments to a Buy Canadian approach. Recently, organizations like the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and even the Premier of Ontario have recently talked about breaking down internal trade barriers to create a stronger Canadian economy. How will your party ensure that Buy Canadian is more than a slogan and delivers tangible benefits for our local and Canadian businesses? And the first one for that, Melissa Simon, please.
Thank you. Yes, it's important that none of us are presenting policies that are just slogans. So when we're talking about Build Canadian, Buy Canadian, the NDP supports a number of measures that would be policies and in force. That would include things like using Canadian resources to bolster our economy by building infrastructure with Canadian resources. It also means when we're at a point of negotiation in industry that we are not relenting to demands that threaten Canadian sovereignty or workers' rights or Indigenous rights. So that means standing firm on trade and rejecting any Trump-influenced deal that involves takeover of Canadian resources. It means that we do not allow the United States or other international players to purchase or take ownership of our telecommunications, as has happened. It means also making sure that our medications are kept affordable and the prices of those aren't driven up by international actors such as the United States. So what that looks like in practice is doing what we say. And the Liberals have had quite a number of years now to show a track record on whether they follow through with promises or not. And I think it's time for the NDP to be given a real shot to implement these policies that make good sense for all Canadians.
Thank you, Melissa. Jennifer Purdy, please go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, so from my understanding this was about how to ensure that the federal government will be truly buying Canadian. And to me, the answer to that is that can be built into into the procurement process, for any department. Obviously not, that would not be national defense necessarily, but some of these things would be. Every department needs desks. Every department needs all kinds of supplies and equipment. That can be built into the process, number one, for federal departments and for Crown corporations as well. The other thing too, the piece with regards to more locally as well, is that like I said in my introduction, we can be greenifying our economy, right, and addressing climate change much more assertively than has been done over the last 10 years and well beyond, by encouraging people and organizations and companies and offering subsidies, right? Oil and gas subsidies are still occurring even at 10 years after the Liberals said that they would cancel them completely. why not, like, and in contrast, subsidies for solar panels, and wind, there aren't as many subsidies for that, and yet these industries have taken off in spite of the lack of federal support. So I think the way forward is for green tech, including solar, including wind, including everything needed to retrofit buildings across the country. If subsidies and grants are offered to companies for that, then we can drive that industry while addressing climate change and while turning away more from the United States as a trading partner and looking elsewhere, but also looking within as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moin Siddiqui, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking that there are so many, avenue we can work on by Canadian. First of all, like I said before, that for a long time, we just forget about our agriculture sector. The farmer doesn't have any subsidy. We have land available for the farming. We have the potato, we have apples, but we're still buying things we import things from the outside. If we give subsidize to our farmers and then work on this industry, so it's also being a lots of investment, foreign investment as well, and also we have the revenue come out from this sector. And also we also look at the Atlantic, Quebec. They also buying stuff, importing oil from other countries. So we also invest on Alberta, that how we can just bring up our local oil through the pipeline, and then we can save lots of money for Canada. And also we also not talk about the nuclear technology. I know it's very hard to build a nuclear technology, but it's a long term. It stays long term. They have a less disposable. I'm not against the green policy. But if you see that we only have 1.6% of green emission gas globally, but nuclear technology, one of the things. We don't look at the nuclear technology. Those are windmills and other stuff is also important. But if you have a nuclear technology, it long lasts, and then give. We can have build power and produce everything from this technology. So I would suggest that if we have some resources available, so we can work on these issues and to bring the economy boost. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jenna Suds, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So if there is any good that has come from Trump's trade war and threats to our sovereignty, I think it is the determination of Canadians to unify and to support each other through this. We have a massive opportunity in front of us, and that is namely to build one strong Canadian economy instead of 13. And our leader, Mark Carney, has committed and made headways already in doing just that, and has committed to having legislation in place by July 1st, Canada Day, for this to be a reality. This is remarkable that we've made this progress with the provinces and territories, the premiers, and I'm excited about what this will mean here in Canada. And I can tell you, I've hosted roundtables in our technology park here in Kanata, and this is a big opportunity locally. I will also say that the Liberal government has also committed to shifting our purchases and our procurement to made in Canada goods and contractors, and particularly I'll highlight defense procurement, as that is a big piece of what we are committing to do right now. We will also take bets on Canadian innovators and entrepreneurs. And one measure that we've put forward that has been widely supported is through a method called flow-through shares, which will enable our startups, our small businesses, to be able to take investment in a new and exciting way. I have to say, I think one of the biggest strengths we have in this amazing community is the employment, the careers that we see in our tech park. And I think the opportunity when we move forward together, focused on buying Canadian, means the opportunity to continue to secure those investments and those amazing careers here in our community that so many families rely on, and that I've had the honor of fighting for and working with for many years and aspire to continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenna. And we'll conclude this question with Greg Kung. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think, let's face it, Canada is a less competitive and less attractive place to invest in that we've seen under this last decade under the Liberals. We live in that reality. So how do we go forward? Well, let's start with our trade barriers between the provinces and territories. I think the Conservative Party has been very clear and consistent in removing these trade barriers. I'll take you back when Conservatives introduced a policy to just remove the trade barriers for getting beer and spirits across provincial territory boundaries. Liberals pushed back against this. It's interesting to hear them talk this game of unity when they've had 10 years to try to remove some of these interprovincial trade barriers that have existed for so long. Our Conservative Party is proposing three things. One, within 30 days of taking office, the Conservative government will bring all the premiers from our provinces and territories together to slash exceptions within the Canadian Free Trade Agreement and boost interprovincial trade within 30 days. Second, we will incentivize the provinces and territories with a free trade bonus that rewards them by lowering trade and labor mobility barriers that currently exist. And this costs our economy billions of dollars currently. And finally, to the second part of the question, we will actually implement a Buy Canada procurement policy, not just talk about it. We will federally funded infrastructure and defense projects. We'll prioritize Canadian companies employing Canadian workers and using Canadian materials. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Greg. The final question that kind of revolves around the economy is the Kanata Tech Park. And we wouldn't be the riding of Kanata if we didn't talk about the tech park in a question. It's one of the largest research and development hubs in North America. And it's a major driver of innovation and economic growth, not just locally, but across Canada. Some people feel it doesn't always rise to the national level of discussion in the same way that other traditional resources like oil, gas, and minerals do. And at the same time, groups like the Ottawa Board of Trade have stressed that our city's downtown economy must also thrive in order for the whole region to succeed. So the question for the candidates is, considering kind of a Team Ottawa approach to support our entire city, how will your party support federal investment in Canadian tech and innovation? And the first person for that is Jennifer, please.
Okay, so sorry, I want to make sure I understand the questions. How will the federal government support
investments in Canadian tech and innovation, thinking about the Kanata Tech Park, but also taking into consideration that the economy of the whole city, including the downtown, is part of the same conversation?
Yeah, so first off, like with what's occurring with the states, I think there's a short-term piece and a long-term piece, because it's going to take a while for companies that are affected by the tariffs and by any trade limitations. There's going to be a short-term harm, right, and stress that occurs. And that's where the federal government needs to step in and provide assistance to keep the companies going. If there's a shortage of materials due to tariffs, or if there's a shortage of capital due to the tariffs. And then the long-term piece comes in with the federal government basically finding other, number one, decreasing the interprovincial trade barriers, as previously stated, and then also looking for trade partners around the world and consulting with the, locally here in Canada, with the tech industry, so that we are looking, the federal government can facilitate these new trade relationships with countries that will make the job easier for the tech companies here in Canada to do their job. And of course, this is also an Ottawa-wide strategy where basically the federal government needs to know exactly what is needed. And for both the tech companies and the other companies across the city of Ottawa, but it also needs to provide that, make sure it's providing support for companies and for individuals in the short term, because we're already in an affordability crisis, and that's affecting companies as well. It's affecting their employees as well. And so there needs to be more support in the short term, both for individuals and for companies, while we do this transitioning in terms of trade relationships, partner relationships, and finding also other places for tech companies to basically sell their products. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moin Siddiqui, please go ahead next.
Yeah, it's a very good point, because the area where we live is surrounded by all the high-tech companies, and we have quite a few family members who work for the IT company. With this current aggression from Donald Trump, it might open again, I say that, another avenue to look after other market of the world. But for this, we need the federal support. I know that we have people from R&D. We easily can design anything for any part of the world. The people are working for companies, and then the other people get benefit out of it. But if you can invest something from the federal government, if you invest and then make some collaboration with other country like Singapore or Japan, Taiwan, and you can sell their product from Middle East. There's no R&D in Middle East, but they have a big customer for high-tech technology. If you can get some customers, so that bring more revenue rather than we are working for somebody else. That's my point about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Jenna Suds, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I could ramble a lot on this question. I think most people would know that. I've been deeply involved in our tech park for many years as the founding executive director for the Kanata North Business Association, and deep roots into many folks and many companies within the park. And I referenced earlier, as Trump was starting to threaten tariffs, one of the first things I did was hold a roundtable with our business leaders to better understand the implications and what they were thinking and how we as a government could help. I will also say that I take issue with the Conservative candidate, Greg, stating that Canada is a less attractive place for business. And I challenge that because I continue to see countless investments in companies right here in our community. I look to Marvel, I look to Warner Brothers, I look to AlphaWave, I look to Solus, I look to Renovis. These are companies in our community attracting investment and growing amazing careers for people. This is what we need. And as a government and as a member of parliament, I will continue to advocate for these types of investments for exactly that reason. Canadian innovation is second to none. And as a government, we need to support that. We need to amend our own procurement policy so that we are buying Canadian first, and we've committed to doing that. As a member of parliament, just last year, I attracted $140 million of investment, Canadian government dollars, to support business growth, scaling up, creating careers. These are the type of investments we need in our community. And I will always fight for these jobs and these investments and not talk down our country and the opportunities that it presents. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. And that leads into Greg Tung next, so I'll have a chance to respond to some of that too. Go ahead, Greg.
Happy to. Look, we just need to look at the statistics, folks. $500 billion, $500 billion has fled to the US under the last 10 years under the Liberals. Those aren't just made up numbers. That is economic investment here fleeing our country because of regulation, high taxes, and red tape. The economic record of these Liberals the last 10 years is the worst in the G7, 1.5%, one of the worst countries of economic growth in the entire world. And that is not something to be proud of. I would also suggest that if the Liberals have been listening to the tech community, they would not have increased the capital gains tax hike that they did last year, where they blamed tech entrepreneurs, IT engineers, people that worked in the KMBA as the problem, who rely on capital gains for innovation, for economic growth, for startup and attracting talent to the KMBA. There's a clear difference. I think the Conservatives have said we are running on a platform of technology, not taxes. This is a clear signal from us that we're going to invest in clean tech and tech initiatives to solve some of our big problems. We also will not hike the capital gains. And actually, we're going to go one step further by saying we will completely remove capital gains taxes if companies want to reinvest here in Canada. That's how we stand up to the US when we attract economic investment into our country, into our KMBA. This also goes back to our Buy Canada procurement tax policy that I just talked about in the last question. Many of the companies that are even here in our riding, defense tech companies that are looking for procurement contracts from the federal government, will have some clarity now with a Conservative government that is going to focus on Canadian companies so that they can have proof of business, so that they can go global from that. When the tech park wins, all of Ottawa wins. I firmly believe in this. I believe that I've been in touch with the people that are living here in our riding. They've been less than impressed by the Liberal record. It's time for change.
Thank you, Greg. And the last one for this question, Melissa Simon, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, we need to make investments to encourage innovation and to bring skilled workers to our tech park. I think a lot of folks have already spoken to that. I'd like to highlight, though, that in addition to, pardon my cat, I've got 5 of them and they're going to show up. In addition, though, to making investments directly into innovation or partnerships, we need to listen to local experts. The Kanata North Business Association has done a great job of coming out with a strategic roadmap. And we also need to consider what brings people here. So businesses are run by people. And, I've heard Pierre Poilievre talk about Ireland and what a success story Ireland is because they reduced their corporate tax rates. And so all of the businesses went there to have a tax loophole, frankly. But in Ireland, homelessness is at its all-time high. House prices are rising 10% per year on average, and they have a tight labor market. So we need to look at what brings people here. It's not just tax cuts, it's investing in education, it's having housing, it's having infrastructure such as transit, and having a good plan for making the tech park a place that people want to be, having access to doctors. People who run businesses and people who work here want to have access to services that make them well and their families well. So let's not just consider financial incentives, but let's look at a bigger picture to what makes folks want to be part of our community. And that does extend beyond just the tech park as well, particularly when we talk about transit and being physically connected to educational institutions and other places, hotbeds for business in Ottawa.
Thank you, Melissa. That's actually a great segue into our next theme of tonight: housing, immigration, nation building, community building. And thank you all for the responses so far. Housing and sustainable community growth is probably one of the most pressing concerns right across Canada, including right here in Kanata. The issue goes far beyond the number of homes built, but includes public infrastructure, thoughtful development, and how we support growth, including growth from immigration. Recently, our community engaged in a heated debate around temporary housing structures for newcomers, a proposal that the city has now since paused. But at the root of that discussion, it exposed the deeper issue that we don't have enough housing. We don't have enough community, affordable, transitional, supportive. There's just not enough of it to meet the needs. Ottawa home prices are high. About 3,000 people are experiencing homelessness, and the wait list for affordable housing is very long. Municipalities right across Canada have also been calling on the lack of enough resources for wraparound supports to support people who have mental health concerns, substance use challenges, and those things go hand in hand with housing stability. These issues require all levels of government. It was a topic we discussed during the provincial election as well, and the federal government has a key role to play. So the question for the candidates tonight is, what is your party's plan to address the housing crisis in a way that builds sustainable and inclusive communities? And in that answer, how would that plan show up locally, including affordable housing options in Kanata, better transit connections like Ottawa LRT expansion, and federal support to improve things like health services? And the first person for that question will go to you, Moin Siddiqui.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Yeah, we know that we need about 1.5 million houses by 2030 because of community. We are growing in community. Our plan, the Centrist Party plan, is to use the federal land. It says that 89% of Canada is owned by federal, and then 11% is private land. If we can use that this crown land for building housing. And the second thing we oppose, we all, in the favor that we should have a price control on houses. We have a price control on the rental properties, but we don't have any control on houses. We can make a house of $300,000, but a builder can sell for $800,000. So there's no control on it. We can see that if you have a house in Rockcliffe, it's the same house in Orleans, the same material we use, but Rockland price is rock high, and because of this, the builders, they're making money. So we should have a limit, and we should have the price control on the new houses. And instead of bringing, big companies, we have to give a chance to the small companies who can build like 20, 30 townhomes instead of like 200 houses, or because a big company, they are making their markup, they are making their because there's no control on it. And then most of the people, there's no opposition because they are the big donors of the big parties, and some of the MPs also in this business. So we want that price to come down. It's a genuine issue with my son is also work for government, but he can't afford to buy a house, because if $600,000 of a house, you can pay like $3,500 or $3,700 mortgage. If you're making like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, you can't afford that house. So we are looking for a small community house. The normal size of Canadian is 2.5%. So we don't need the big houses. We have the small houses, and then we should have a price control so everybody can afford these houses. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jenna Seds, please go ahead.
Thank you. There was a lot in that question, so I'll do my best in a short amount of time. First of all, I will say that one of the big commitments that I think is really important in this moment as we address the shortage of housing and affordable and accessible housing in our city is getting back into the business as government in building affordable homes. Thinking back to post-World War II, when the government built affordable homes for folks returning from the war. That is our plan, to build 500,000 affordable homes each and every year moving forward, so that young people, families, seniors can find an affordable place to live. I will also point out that the plan is to do that using Canadian lumber, Canadian steel, etc., as needed. So sourcing Canadian, which spurs those industries as well and spurs that economic growth. We have made commitments as well around removing the GST for first-time home buyers, saving them up to $50,000 in the purchase of a home. Speaking more locally, I'll speak to my time over these last 2 years as the minister serving on behalf of Ottawa Caucus, and can share with you a few points. And first of all, I will say, Danielle, you mentioned a pause on sprung structures. There will be no sprung structures in our city. I worked for months with the mayor, with council, with staff to ensure that we found a more viable solution to welcoming folks into our city with a proper roof over their head and the supports that they need to set them up for success. So I wanted to clarify that. I think that's an important point. We can do well by folks when they arrive here by providing a roof over their head in a dignified way, not in a sprung structure in a parking lot. I will point to a couple investments locally. I was able to secure just over $173 million in Housing Accelerator Fund for the City of Ottawa to accelerate and streamline the process to get more homes built in our city. We have a few examples in Kanata of affordable housing in the works. I look to Ottawa Community Housing has a planned development on Penfield, the seniors' home there, to add additional units. I look to Kanata Avenue. There's currently a large apartment building under construction there. 30% of those will be affordable units. And there's a future plan on Campo for another application that's come in that would also like to include accessible and affordable units. So there is movement. There has been progress in units coming. And the last thing I would point to, Danielle, I think you talked about some of those wraparound services. And I will point to the Transit Infrastructure Fund, which just about 3 months ago, I was able to share the good news that myself and my Ottawa Liberal colleagues had secured $180 million for the city, for transit over these next 10 years to make sure that we have the services that we need. Taxpayers in Kanata deserve good transit service, and we are working as a federal government, as Ottawa MPs, to ensure that those services are supported.
Thank you. I know we went a couple seconds over, but I know there's going to be kind of 2 back-to-back questions about cost of living and affordability, so there's more time a little bit to go into these. But thank you, Jenna. Greg Kung, next for that one, please.
Thank you very much. Look, I think this question is about trust. There was 10 years where the previous Liberal leader promised the exact same thing, that the government should get into the business of home building. And should we trust them again? Well, the results say probably not. We've seen the lowest supply of housing in Canadian history per population. We have seen that after their Housing Accelerator Fund, home building has declined by as much as 32%. Housing costs have doubled. Taxes on builders and buyers have continued to pile up. Your rent has doubled over those 10 years. The statistics don't show that we should trust the Liberals on housing. But there is a different way. And I would suggest to those watching today that Conservatives have a robust plan to get people into homes and affordable homes. Let me go through some of them very, very quickly. One, we will remove the GST on all new homes under 1.3 million. That saves a first-time home buyer up to $65,000 on the cost of a new home. We're going to incentivize cities like Ottawa to reduce development charges. With every dollar of relief a municipality offers in development charges, they'll be reimbursed by 50%. Altogether, this can save a home buyer up to $100,000 on the cost of an average new home. We're going to eliminate the Liberals' new tax on home renovations to support homeowners, and we will remove the requirement to report the sale of your home to the CRA to tie infrastructure funding to results. Not promises. As it stands right now, the Liberals have given money to municipalities without meeting any benchmarks for housing starts. We have said that we will set targets for cities like Ottawa, and these aren't just mansions. These are affordable housing. These are townhomes. These are units that first-time home buyers can access, and they will get bonuses if they exceed these targets. I think it's a very common sense plan to incentivize municipalities that we need to build. Just very quickly on some of these other things, conservative government supports transit. I think the Liberals have had a long time to try to address this for Kanata, for Western Ottawa. There is no transit down the CARP corridor. CARP is underserved by transit, has no access to transit. We have huge traffic going to the Kanata Tech Park. These are things that we will be looking at to invest in. Kanata can't wait 10 years for transit investments. A conservative government is going to be focused on actually getting you to work and quickly. One very quick thing just on health care that Danielle, that you raised. Obviously, I see this in my role as a paramedic. Everyone wants to come to Kanata, West Ottawa. It is an attractive place. We got to just make sure that we're investing in that promise that you can have a family doctor. I think the Conservatives have a better plan than most to actually deliver on that promise.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I'll move to, we just hit a few seconds over on that one too. So we'll keep the trend going for this question in fairness. The next candidate, Melissa Simon, please go ahead.
Would you mind just repeating the question? I feel like we've gotten into transit, healthcare, doctors, housing, and I'm not sure where we're at.
Absolutely. It's in terms of your party's plan to address the housing crisis and build sustainable, inclusive communities, how would that plan show up locally? And that can be about housing, can be about transit, can be about healthcare.
Thank you for clarifying. So the NDP and I, as a representative of the NDP, support aggressive plans to build houses. Housing is a very basic human right and is tied to all of the other things that we're concerned about. We talk about being concerned about criminal activity. Well, there's a very strong correlation between people being unhoused and finding themselves incarcerated. It's a vicious cycle. And everybody needs housing. Our families need housing. I've got, older teens and young adults living at home who don't see a future elsewhere because it's just impossible to find affordable housing. So we support building 3 million new homes, and that will include at least 20% non-market homes. Housing is a public good, or it should be a public good, in the sense that it's something that all of our citizens need. And if we leave it entirely for profit, we end up in the situation that we're in now, which is unaffordable housing that is purpose-built for profit, not for people. So through a new fund, the Canadian Homes Transfer, we will invest $8 billion over 4 years. And we will allocate that funding by requiring cities to allow some more multi-unit homes in different neighborhoods. Of course, that's with attention to local needs and sustainable housing principles and urban planning principles. Building more housing near transit routes and speeding up permits and approvals so that homes will get built faster. And that may also include reducing or eliminating some of the fees that are associated with development. Beyond that, we will also require that funding be used in a way that allows for or requires the use of Canadian materials like steel, cement, and mass timber. I think I'm at time, but one more point. We would also support building prefabricated homes to help meet tight timelines. We see that as one strategy to having housing built quickly.
Thank you, Melissa. And I appreciate all your answers. It's a big question, but I feel like housing is always connected to so many other things. So just the way that you answer it, I think is helpful to voters to understand where your party stand. For the last response to this, Jennifer, go ahead.
Great, thank you very much. And I just wanted to say that one thing that has not been mentioned is REITs. Housing should be a right and not a commodity for people to make money off of. And right now, REITs have been ignored by the Conservatives and the Liberals. And of course, the Greens, we have a different strategy where we want to end the preferential tax treatment that for REITs and for other corporate landlords, because that is not working. It's helping to drive up the cost of housing. One point we heard earlier that there had been a huge housing increase after the World War II, and that is true. CMHC, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, it used to build tons of homes and non-market housing, and it did from the 1940s until the 1990s, and then it was cut. And it doesn't really matter which government cut it, conservative or liberal, but successive governments of both stripes didn't reinvest in federal housing, and it takes decades for the effect to be seen. And then we end up in a housing crisis. So the Greens are all about getting back into for the federal government to get back into the housing game, but looking at nonprofit, looking at co-ops. There's a co-op here in Kanata in Beaverbrook on Terron Road that was there when I was growing up. It's still there. We need far more co-op housing and not-for-profit housing. The Green Plan is 1.7 million housing units for 7 years. And the other thing too is we don't want to just use developers, because the conservative plan is great. They want to build homes. They want to use developers. And developers do need to be used, but we also have to be careful, because then we just end up with more $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 homes, and people can't afford it enough as it is. Now, in terms of having a vision for housing and the neighborhood and that sort of thing, Greens of course are, we LRT to Kanata, we need that sooner rather than later, and we also need for OC Chancellor to be appropriately supported. The conservative provincial government has failed to support OC Chancellor appropriately. And so we would be fighting for the provincial government to treat Ottawa as well as it treats GTA in terms of subsidies, which is not occurring. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Then we're getting into our final two questions. I'll get to the next one really quickly. It addresses affordability across the board, not just housing. Residents have talked about concerns about the rising cost of food in addition to rent or mortgage payments. Others have struggled to access publicly funded healthcare, dental care, or affordable childcare. Programs exist, and many say they're not reaching the people who need them or not reaching them quickly enough. What would your party do to make life more affordable, including how do you collaborate with other levels of government to ensure federally funded programs are delivered effectively and reach the people who need them? And the first one is Jenna Suds for that question, please.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for the question. Undoubtedly, over the last number of years, I, in my capacity as member of Parliament, have had conversations with individuals, with families who have been struggling, whether that be with childcare, with healthcare, or the cost of living in general. And I think in the moment that we are in, with our new leader and with everything that we're seeing from President Trump, we have a commitment to do everything we can to help people weather the storm that is coming. The reality is there are hard times that are coming due to tariffs. In the very short term, what we saw our new leader, Mark Carney, do was, first of all, cancel the consumer carbon price. And what that meant was on April 1st, people saw the price of gas go down 17, 18 cents a liter. And that is real savings for people here in our community. And it is coming at a moment that it is needed. We had realized that it had become too divisive of an issue in our country. We also saw our Prime Minister announce a 1% tax cut for those in the lowest income bracket, should we be successful in being elected. Again, tangible savings for people that need it most. You've seen each and every summer, the Canada Child Benefit has increased to match the rate of growth in inflation. And we're now seeing families, there's over 11,000, families here in Canada that are receiving that monthly benefit. And as I said, indexed to inflation. We created the first ever national school food program. And that is a program that I negotiated within 8 months, agreements with every province and territory successfully to ensure that 400,000 more kids in our country have access to food at schools. And I'll tell you, the Conservatives voted against this program to ensure kids had food. We also have moved forward with building a first ever national childcare program with a goal of increasing the number of spaces across this country and getting to $10 a day by next year. In our platform, we've committed to additional funding to be able to continue to meet the growing demand for this affordable, high quality care because more families want to be able to access it. These are real solutions we've put forward to reduce costs. They're not empty slogans or empty actions. They are concrete things that we are doing as a government. And in contrast, we've seen the Conservatives vote against and or threaten to cut, which will leave families worse off in our community.
Thank you, Jenna. And the next one for that question goes to Greg Kung with the Conservatives.
Thanks. While I suspect viewers here can see through what Ms. Sudds just said, obviously trying to take credit for something that the Conservatives have been asking for years. It was actually Ms. Sudds and all of her colleagues that stood up and applauded when Liberals blamed anyone calling for the removal of the carbon tax. A climate denier said that they wanted to watch the world burn, watch Canada burn. It was shameful. They were the ones who made it so divisive. They made it harder for you to put food on the table, for you to get fuel up your car to get to work. So it's rich for them to try to take credit for something that the Conservatives have been asking for years. Remember that it was Conservatives that will actually completely remove the carbon tax. What the Liberals do not tell you is that they have just dropped the price to $0. Conservatives will actually remove the carbon tax for good and forever. We're going to introduce some tax cuts to actually make life more affordable. We'll cut income taxes by 15%. That's going to save the average Kanata family $1,800 a year. And we are going to cut taxes on work, on homes, on investment and energy, so Canadians can bring home bigger paychecks, keep more of what they earn. And we will find savings within government so that you can expect that a Conservative government is not going to introduce inflationary spending like the Liberals. I would suggest to you that many have said that the new Liberal leader, Mark Carney, was renowned for his economic and fiscal prowess. But if you took a look at the Liberal platform, you would have seen that they are proposing to increase our debt to by even more than $250 billion, adding billions of debt to our already burgeoning debt. Even Justin Trudeau said that the debt to GDP ratio was the fiscal anchor. Mark Carney has just blown through that with his Liberal platform. And just remember, these inflationary costs are going to be passed on to you with higher taxes and higher costs. I would like to also just take a moment to address childcare to clear up any misinformation. Any family that is benefiting from a $10 a day childcare spot will not lose their spot. Any misinformation to suggest otherwise is false. And look at the record that you had with a Liberal member of Parliament leading the charge on childcare. There has been 122,000 less childcare spots for Canadians since the Liberals took power. Even today, the CBC announced that the number of children 0 to 5 years old waiting here in Ottawa for a space have risen by over 300% since 2019. That is not a record to be proud of. Conservatives will continue to support affordable childcare, giving you more choice so that it's not a one-size-fits-all for families.
Thank you, Greg. I'm going to have to do time on that one, but I appreciate your answer on that. And speaking of time, Melissa Simon, you're next. Thank you.
When I think about affordability and what it means to have what I need and what my family needs, I don't necessarily think in terms of exactly how many dollars are coming into my bank account. That's important, but it's also important to understand that affordability means having access to things like pharmacare and medical care without an out-of-pocket cost. So I've heard in my community, in our community, people talking about what to do because they can't access their family doctor. They don't have a family doctor. They think it's urgent, but it's not worthy of going to the emergency room, that there isn't an urgent care option necessarily. And people are very casually talking about accessing private health care options. As you know, the conversations go, oh, well, it's only $50 to call and it's worth it. And these are very casual acceptances of a system that is breaking. It is broken. So when I think about affordability, the NDP supports and I support investing in pharmacare so that you can fill prescriptions, having affordable housing, as we've already discussed. When your costs are lower, life is more affordable. We also will remove GST from many essential goods, including utilities, cell phone bills, diapers, things that we're currently paying GST on. And in addition, a tax cut for working Canadians. So we're talking about, yeah, having more revenue to pay for these services, but it is the ultra wealthy who can afford to pitch in a fairer share so that all Canadians can have a reasonable quality of life that is affordable.
Thank you, Melissa. Over to you, Jennifer.
Great, thank you. Okay, so first of all, just about the carbon program, yes, it's dead, but we've been hearing some misinformation about how people would be better off. When 8 in 10 Canadians were actually getting more in rebates than they were paying at the pump or through their heating bills, that means 8 in 10 Canadians are going to have yet another hit to their ability to afford life and groceries and everything else. So let's be clear about that. And of course, climate crisis is not being addressed. Greg would talk about technology and carbon capture and storage. So will the Liberals, and there's no evidence for that. That is not only is it unproven. You throw millions of dollars at oil and gas companies to do carbon capture and storage, and it actually does not work. It does not deliver. So when somebody says technology to address climate change, these are innovations that we haven't created yet. And last year we had, 5,000 or 6,000 fires across the country. So do the math. We need solutions that work today. Okay, in terms of affordability, so the tax cuts, and I want people to hear this to know that better is possible, because we're not hearing this from the Liberals or the Conservatives, and I don't think even in the NDP. The Greens would cut taxes for the first $40,000 to 0%. 0% for the first $40,000 of income if the person's making $100,000 or less. So that is possible. If the other parties do not do this, if the government of choice does not do this, that's a policy choice, not a policy failure to make things more affordable for you. In terms of employment insurance is not going to cover everyone. And this becomes a big point, not only for people who work at the Bay, not only people who work at CRA who are being laid off, but if there's a coming recession because of Trump's attacks, EI will not be enough. Basic income is an evidence-based solution, and the parties know about it. So if the government doesn't take this up, again, it's a policy choice, not a failure, to capture and take care of all Canadians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the final response, over to you, Moyne.
Thank you. The affordability, we have a clear platform on our Centrist Party that we need to cut the first bracket of the income by 50%. Right now it's 15%. So slowly we have to go to 50%. That's the plan. And simply to offset this living cost, I would say that simply we can just look at overspending, the government overspending. We can easily save the money. If the money is inside the house, it's again that if the house have more expensive than the income, so we are in the deficit. So we can have a different avenue to save this money. We have overspending, foreign, spending. It goes to like $20 to $30 million a year. If it stays in Canada, so we can use for different programs to offset the cost of common people. It say that the other approach that Buy Canadian to offset the price, like we have like shoes and clothing industry. We have a small tariff on that. So if we can just work on the tariff, so it's basic. I mean, the basic need of every Canadian. So we can buy Canadian, and then we can boost our economy with that, and also the spending. I mean, if you can just look at our spending, so we can have that money to use for the Canadian people to bring our cost low. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moin. We're going to go into our final question. We're getting tight on time, and I want to give you guys the full time to offer your closing remarks. It's a very local issue. It's about the Kanata golf course. The community has been concerned about this for a number of years. It's currently before the Supreme Court as kind of a final attempt to address some of the community's concerns. If you can, in 30 seconds to a minute, if the Supreme Court challenge fails, what, if anything, are you prepared to do to support the community's concerns around the development? And the first one for that question goes to Greg Cohn.
Thanks. Very quickly, I'm happy to see that it's back before the Supreme Court. I've heard directly from many residents here in Kanata, and they've made their voice very, very clear. Look, part of this too is that it's not about NIMBYism. It's about respecting contracts, and I think there is definitely importance in this case. If this for some reason does fail, hopefully, obviously, I'd prefer that we have a positive resolution for our residents. If elected, I will do everything in my power from the federal perspective to make sure that you feel like you have a voice in the federal government, whether that's environmental assessments, et cetera. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. Melissa Simon.
This is a great question, as we're all advocating for, more housing, which may look like intensification. We do need to be aware of the consequences of that intensification. And yes, there's a historical contract and there's a legal question. I think it's really important to consider things like stormwater management. There's a real environmental concern. This isn't only about the law. It isn't only about previous contracts. And as your representative, I would advocate for really thorough investigation into those concerns. We need to make sure that any planning that we do respects the environment, that we respect that there has been a lot of strategic planning going into these neighborhoods and developments. And it's not as simple as invalidating previous contracts and agreements because a decision was made. It's worth fighting for and looking into further. And as your representative, I would do that.
Thank you, Melissa. Jennifer Purdy.
Thank you. So I live in the townhouse that basically backs onto the golf course, so it's pretty close to my heart. So if the case is unsuccessful, then I echo Melissa in that stormwater management remains a big issue, and so does green space, because as the cities are all getting hotter because of climate change, which is real, the golf courses can become more and more important. Also, we need more housing for everyone, including people in Kanata tech industry as well, right? So to me, I would be advocating to protect as much green space as possible. The City of Ottawa, the current plan that has been submitted to the City of Ottawa does not show a significant amount of green space. There needs to be much more intensification in the plan, and I would suggest that intensification should occur closer to Campo Drive so that we can preserve as much green space as possible and protect the area and surrounding communities against flooding. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Moin, please go ahead.
I would say that if the case is not successful, so my party, Centre's party, will do some alternative ways to find out to preserve this golf club. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the final over to you, Jenna.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick. So many will know this development application came in on my 10th day as your city councillor in Kanata North. And since that day, I have stood with the community and fought tooth and nail to ensure that our 40% agreement and our green space was protected. Should the Supreme Court fail, I will continue to do exactly that and work with the city council, the mayor, and the Kanata Green Space Protection Coalition to determine next steps. But I will say very importantly that the stormwater management and drainage is still an issue that I believe the city can utilize as this would potentially move forward through the development application process and is grounds to deny an application. So I am there as a resource, as an advocate, as your member of parliament to ensure your voices are heard and that we continue to do everything we can to ensure we get the right resolution.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. That concludes all of our questions. We are a little tight for time, but I think this is a great time through the passionate discussions that we've heard at the end here to go to the closing remarks. And the order for this will be Melissa first, Jennifer, Moyne, followed by Jenna, and then Greg. So please go ahead, Melissa, up to 3 minutes.
Thank you very much for all of my fellow candidates for being here. It's nice to have everyone together to have these discussions. And thank you also for hosting and putting together a great event. I'd like to talk about a couple of issues before summarizing. One of those is that we haven't specifically talked about our senior population. And that's an area that, yes, as a party, we support all Canadians living well. But I noticed that there really isn't a minister portfolio for seniors. There are a lot of seniors in our community who are facing or who are especially vulnerable to income inequality, really vulnerable to having an inadequate healthcare system. I mean, we all are experiencing problems with access to healthcare, but disproportionately our seniors are facing those issues. And I think we need to respect that people who are in their senior years have given very much to their families, to their communities, and need to be specifically named and taken care of for the contributions they have made. This also concerns people who are newcomers to Canada. So we've invited people into our country and we need to take care of them. In the case of certain seniors, if they haven't been residents for long enough, they don't have access to some of the income supports that people who have lived in Canada for longer have access to. So that is an issue that's dear to me and to the NDP. As well, we haven't had a chance to talk too much about crime, but I do want to raise the concern that it seems that Pierre Poilievre is prepared to invoke the notwithstanding clause, and we may agree that people who have committed multiple murders should remain incarcerated. That is a separate question from whether invoking the notwithstanding clause is appropriate. There are other ways, legislative processes that we can use, that the government should use to make changes to our laws if that's what they want to do. The notwithstanding clause basically gives up our rights and freedoms. It was used not so long ago to outlaw same-sex marriage in Alberta, for example. It's something that I'm very concerned about. But in summary, I would like to say I would appreciate your support. I've heard from lots of constituents that folks do support the NDP, they do support me as a candidate, but sometimes feel concerned about voting strategically out of fear that a different party will win if they vote for the NDP. I'd like to encourage you to think of your vote as an active democracy, to encourage you to vote for the candidate you support, to vote your conscience. Regardless of whether that candidate is successful, your vote will count in that everyone will know how many folks supported different parties, and hopefully that will influence decisions and policies that are made in government. And it also builds momentum for the future. So I encourage you to please vote with your conscience, and I would appreciate your support as the NDP candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you very much. Next, Jennifer Purdy with the Green Party.
Great, thank you. So I think most of us here in Canada are feeling a lot of anxiety about Trump's economic attacks on Canada. It is important to keep in mind that this can present an opportunity. We can change course with our trade and diversify. We can update and improve our military while ensuring that procurement is finally streamlined where possible. We can build our economy in part by addressing climate change, taking steps such as retrofitting buildings and homes across the country and upgrading the electrical grid. And because the economy is us, we, the people, we can stimulate the economy by investing in people, and that means all people. All of this can occur as long as we don't leave money on the table, and that means the very richest amongst us and the large corporations, they need to pay their fair share in taxes. We can do this, but it requires moral courage to make policy choices that truly benefit everyone and not just the wealthiest and the well-connected. But know that, especially if things don't change and the affordability crisis gets worse, that is happening due to policy choices, not policy failures. I'm going to take a second and discuss something that wasn't discussed tonight and that the Conservatives and Liberals have been shamefully silent on. Gaza has been under siege for 6 weeks, which means no food, no water, no medicine, no medical equipment, nothing has been allowed to get into Gaza. Statements on Twitter don't count in face of a genocide, and discussions in cabinet don't count either. This is a defining moment for Canada. Are we a nation that follows or flouts international law? Currently, we are not following it because the federal government is supporting and funding the Palestinian genocide. The person elected as MP must have the ethics and morality to do what they can to stop this, and if they won't do that, then it's foolhardy to expect that they will take care of the most vulnerable amongst us. Being a retired major and a doctor makes me perfectly qualified to identify threats where others don't and to create solutions. Regarding the economy and finances, I see firsthand as a doctor the effects of the affordability crisis on health. So we want an MP who will protect Kanata residents and not leave them twisting in the wind if or when the economy worsens. Kanata, Stittsville, Bells Corners, and Carp, they deserve someone who will work with every MP regardless of party in order to get us all what we deserve and what we need, what we are paying for with our own tax dollars. Most importantly, I'm the only candidate who can say, hand on heart, that I will work for Kanata residents and not my party. Unlike the Liberals, Conservatives, and the NDP, my vote is never whipped, meaning I am never told by my party how to vote. Instead, my party expects me to vote according to my constituents' interests and what their wishes are. I have the qualifications and the gravitas to be your MP in this critical time. Please lend me your vote and vote green. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Next, Moin Siddiqui from the Centrist Party of Canada. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Won't take much time. Today, we have heard a wide range of ideas, values, and vision of our country. We have heard patient debate and disagreement, and that's what the democracy is all about. By the end of the day, this election isn't about politics on a stage. It's about you. It's about a single parent trying to afford groceries, the small owner struggling to stay afloat, the student worried about their future, and the senior who wants to age with dignity. You deserve leadership that listens, acts, and delivers, not just during election, but every day in the office. The one point I want to touch before we leave is immigration. As you can see that I'm also a proud immigrant. I came in Canada back in 2000. At this time, we see that lots of mismanagement in immigration. We need skilled workers. We need a skilled immigration. We used to have a point system, but we can see that in last few years, the people with the fake documents, with the fake colleges, people come into the country and then end up in a crime. And it takes up the job of our own kids, and as they end up in a different type of crimes. When they don't have enough money to support their family, they end up into different crimes. So I urge that when we have a policy for the next 10 years, we should look at the immigration. We need a skilled immigration with a strict point base. We don't need the grandfather immigration. We are against the grandfather immigration plan. The parents are okay, but the grandparents, they are not productive, and they are also burden on the community, the burden on the health side. Once again, I thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. I'm not here to make promises I can't keep. I'm here to work for you, fight for you, and serve you. On election day, I ask your vote, not just to present you, but to stand with you, because together we can build a country that works better for everyone. My party is for Canada, for Canadian. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Moin. Next up, Jenna Suds with the Liberal Party of Canada. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And first, I'd like to take just a moment to respond to a few of the earlier comments. We heard Jen with the Green Party just state she's the only one with the ethics and accountability to stand up for what's right in the Middle East, and that messages to constituents and contributing to cabinet discussions doesn't count. Well, frankly, that's the job. The job is to engage with constituents on issues that matter. And when you have the opportunity to use your voice to represent those constituents at the cabinet table, I have and I will always stand up for justice and humanity. And to say otherwise is frankly an insult. I also want to just comment on a few things in the affordability section from the Conservative candidate, Greg. We heard that the Conservatives plan on a tax cut, which will save Canadians $1,800. I'd like to point out, if you look at the platform, that $1,800, that tax cut, is not coming to the last year, the fourth year of their platform. I also heard from Greg that the Conservatives will find savings within government. I challenge, what does that mean? Is that the 17,000 jobs a year that they're committing to cut from the public service, jobs people in our community rely on? I also will just say that it is false that Conservatives have not committed to continue to invest in childcare. It is not in the platform, and you will not see an additional single new space in their platform. Now, pivoting to our closing, I would suggest that the ballot question in this election, what this election is really about, is who is best positioned to deal with Donald Trump and build the strongest economy in the G7. My priority in this election is serving you and your family. Things feel uncertain right now, and that is scary. With President Trump's tariffs, his threats, and Pierre Poilievre's negativity and mimicking of Trump's tactics, things feel scary. And it's easy to be negative about everything when you've never had to build anything, when you've never had to make payroll, and that your career has simply been in the House of Commons as an MP for 20 years. Negative slogans are not solutions. Anger is not action, and division is not strength. With Mark Carney as our leader and myself as your member of Parliament, you can rest assured that we will not sell you or Canada out for parts. We will always stand up for what is right. We have a plan to unite, to fight, to protect, and to build our country. I've been a public servant, your city councillor, a member of Parliament, and a cabinet minister. I know how to get things done. I love our community. I love our country. And standing by our country, standing together, rolling up our sleeves and getting the job done is exactly what I want to do. I ask for your support when you go to the polls on Monday, April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. And to conclude, Greg Kung from the Conservative Party of Canada, please go ahead.
Thank you again. Thank you to the organizers for the invitation to this evening. Sorry to all for keeping you away from the Sens game. I also just want to quickly thank all of the individuals here for putting their name on a ballot. I think democracy is better off for it. Just very quickly, I wish my Liberal opponent actually read our platform, because on page 19, it makes it very clear that we plan to maintain those childcare agreements. I also take issue with the fact that she is trying to scare people on this meeting by saying we're suggesting that we are going to fire 17,000 public servants. It says very clearly in our platform that we will not fire public servants. We will give no pink slips. This is all through attrition. And in fact, we will be replacing 2 for every 3 that leave. So again, I would hope that members here would hold their member of parliament to account to actually read documents that are released. What you've heard here should have you considering your options on election day. Look, one thing is clear to me: the status quo is not working for Kanata. You have the option to support more of the same, which has brought in a lost Liberal decade and made everything more expensive. Or you can vote for change. I represent that change. Why am I running to be your member of parliament? I'm running because I care about this community deeply. I've served this community, and I want our people to succeed. I want our community to be proud, strong, and hopeful for what the future can bring. I say this because the people I've met throughout the campaign and through my work experience have given me the conviction required to be a strong advocate for you. Your current Liberal member of parliament probably wants you to thank her for temporarily removing a carbon tax she supported in government 14 times, including as a cabinet minister. She wants you to thank her for promising the things Conservatives have been suggesting for years. She had a seat at the table, and you are further behind as a result. Don't be fooled by these last-ditch political moves designed to make you forget what the Liberals have done to our community and this country. The facts speak for themselves. Under the Liberals, property crime is 40% higher in Ottawa than in New York City, if you can believe it. The Liberals firmly support catch and release policies will end these. Families are paying $10,000 more in tax than they did before the Liberals were first elected. We'll cut taxes. Our GDP has grown 1.5% over the last 10 years, while the US saw nearly 20% growth. We're going to unlock investment and increase productivity. And the national debt has doubled. We already pay over $46 billion annually servicing that debt, and now they want to add $130 billion in new inflationary spending. Canadians cannot afford that. This is about trust. Can you trust the same people who have put Canada in this predicament, or can we move forward with change for the better? A representative that puts you first for a change. I've heard a common theme about unity during this election. A great symbol for a united Canada is a west-east pipeline, a reinvigorated military, a growing and vibrant middle class, and an economy that doesn't rank last in the G7. We cannot afford a fourth Liberal term. I will work tirelessly to make things affordable again, to make Canada more resilient and self-reliant. I want to help get our economy growing again. We can make this community a safe and enjoyable place to live, work, and raise a family. Conservatives can make these changes a reality.
I was going to say we're at time now, but if you want to add a final sentence.
Look, on April 28th, I humbly ask for your support, and I would love to hear about any concerns you have directly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Greg. And with that, that concludes our discussion tonight. I want to thank all of the candidates for taking the time to join us. It was wonderful having all the parties, everyone on the ballot here tonight. We really appreciate your time. From my point of view, we heard some passionate and some thoughtful responses for voters to consider. And to the people watching, these candidates are engaged. And if you have more questions, you can certainly follow up with them in their campaigns, and I'm sure they'll answer them for you. To everyone watching, thank you. Whether you're watching live or you're at a Sens game and you're watching it on replay, thank you for tuning in. Please share the debate with others. Please stay informed. Most importantly, vote. Reminder that Election Day is on Monday, April 28th. The polls are open from 9:30 to 9:30. Any questions about the elections, visit the Elections Canada website at elections.ca. And to conclude, thank you once again to all our candidates for joining, and to all of you, have a great evening.